some Running with the Maschine 2 software here, this time without the hardware, and this is to demonstrate some sidechaining techniques and some interesting sound processing techniques as well. I don't really like to use sample drum loops. I like to program my own, make them sound as if they are actually coming from a library, and then I can build a beat around them. So we're going to do that in this video. Let's get up a kit, and going to load up a 909 here. Going to just double click in the grid to get a real straight up 909 beat. And in this kit, the open hats and the close hats are on a choke group. So at the moment, you've got a long open hat. Now with a choke group, it means that only one sound can play at once. And if I put on the closed hat now, we're going to get this where it's going to cut short the open hat. So that creates a really interesting vibe on there. Really livens a beat up. But tell you what, I'm just going to select this kick and hold down the Alt key, move the arrow keys down. I'm just going to try another one of the kicks. Yeah, I think that's more like it. Let me just double check. I really like that saturated kind of vibe on that kick. Sounds slightly distorted. I'm going to go with that. Now, another thing that I'm going to do is find a tom. So maybe the low one. Maybe I'll move this to another tom. And in fact, what I'll do is I'll find a snare as well, put this in the gaps. I like that, but what I want to do is I just want to add a little bit of swing. All right, so we're just going to come up here, and we've got here groove. I'm just going to adjust this. That's nice. And the other thing that I'm going to do is just going to push tab, bring this snare down. So that's the starting point. I've got a real basic beat, but what I want to do is process this. Across the group, that's all of the drum sounds. I'm going to add an effect. So we're going to come down here and we're going to drop down. Now the first thing that I'm going to do is apply a filter, and I'm not going to use a low pass. I'm going to use a band pass. So let's have a listen. Now what's happening here is it's limiting the amount of frequencies we can hear. So it's cutting out the bass and it's cutting out the high highs. So maybe somewhere around there. Okay, so remember, I'm going to layer this. I'm going to put some other sounds on top, so it doesn't have to have the full frequency range. We're trying to emulate that whole texture that you might have with one of these tops loops or these kind of drum loops that you might layer with something. So that's there for the moment. Now I'm going to add another effect. We're going to drop down, and I'm a big fan of saturation. You know, there's some real nice textures you can get out of this. So I'm going to experiment. So I'm looking for a kind of raw texture to be added here. Let's experiment with the other modes. Yeah, tape's a little bit too polite. Okay, I'm preferring the sound of the classic. Let me come back to my filter, maybe make an adjustment. Yeah, definitely feeling that. Let me just see if I can make an adjustment now to saturator. Definitely like that rawness that's coming out of that. Now another thing that I'm going to do is we're going to add another effect. So this is going to be a reverb. And over here you can see I'm making this more stereo, adding some width. Let's take away some of the lows. Deliberately exaggerating the size of the room here. Let me see what else we got. The reverb's literally, when the sound is stopping, it's just filling in that space. So we've got a few elements here. The filter's taking away the lows and the highs. Saturator is adding the rawness. The reverb is in adding a big wash of space around the sound. So that's good. Let me just turn the whole group down here. And let me just call this raw loop. Do the same with the pattern. Back onto the group level. So here's where we start adding the magic. So basically Maschine 2, the software update, we had the ability to add the sidechain compression. So I've got a compressor here. I need to go to my sidechain input. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop this down. Now on this particular group, so this is group A, sound 1, I have my kick drum. So I'm going to use that as a sidechain. This is going to duck the actual compressor level. All right, so we come back over here. Now, do you know what I was listening to? I was thinking, where's the ducking? And take a look at this. I'm so used to having the kick on the first slot and it's not working. So half of you are laughing when I was doing that. So that's brilliant. Look, here's the reality. My kick's on slot number 14. So what we're going to do is we're going to come down to A1, which is a group, remember. This is coming now to 14. So we're going to be in business now. You're going to hear a big difference. Oh man, now that's real rough and ready. That's got such an energy to it. Now I need to make some readjustments now. It's too heavily out there. Let's take the threshold up. I really like that texture. So you see the attack is deliberately fast. So as soon as the kick hits, it's pulling the volume down. The release is fast as well. So look, this is what happens when I take it longer. So it's about kind of just adjusting this right. I'm not literally trying to get it to bring the volume back up on the offbeat, but just around here, I think it's working quite nice. Yeah, that's wicked. Let me just experiment now with the others. Now we've got that in place. Yeah, I like that. So that's what's going on. We've got ourselves this kind of raw texture in the background. Now I'm going to set up another group. And this time I'm just going to get a real kind of standard 909 on here. And we're going to bring on the real kind of regular 909 kick. So it's got that real raw and raucous texture in the background. And let me come down onto this one now. Let's get the clap on there. So we're layering this stuff. And the great thing about having built this up using those plugins is the fact we can go in and tweak it. You can't do this with loops, of course. So we're going to go in, I'm going to take the reverb, just make it a little bit shorter. Yeah, that's wicked. That's got a real nice rawness to it. Now I wonder if I can get away with actually doubling up on these hats, but this is not the open hat, this is closed. Sounding a little bit raucous. I'm just wondering actually maybe placing it over here. And instead what I need to do is to get that groove on there. I need to really heavily swing this. Yeah, that's got a real good vibe to it. So it's really coming together here, but I wanted to show you another application of the side chaining. So I'm going to say here kick and clap. What I'm going to do now is we're going to get something a little bit different. What I need actually is a sound. I need like a tambourine sound or something. Actually, it would sound great with the shaker too. So I'm going to switch this up and we are going to go to samples. And, you know, we need drums. I'm going to go for... yeah, let me try the shaker. Let's have a look. Let's find something. This could be good. All right, so we've got this one here, this Cabasa Dracula one, and I'm just going to get here and paint 16s all the way through. The other thing I want to do once again is get that groove on the go. And that's wicked. I haven't programmed any velocity in there, but I'm going to show you this sneaky little trick now. So I'm going to put here shaker. So we're going to fake the programming of velocity, and we're going to do that by once again using the compression with the sidechain. So I'm going to do compressor, and what we need to do, of course, is do the sidechain input. So we're going to switch down here. We're going to go down to A1S14. If you remember, that's what we're using. So I need to tweak the settings now. Let's just get this and just reduce that even further. Can you hear that? That's wicked. It's got that real bounce to it. Just going to take this away. Going to pan it a bit different as well. That's sounding really, really good. So look, just to backtrack again, that was using a sidechain input on the compressor, and that means the kick is reducing the level of the shaker hits when the kick is hitting. So it's got that real pulsing kind of vibe that's coming through. So it's ducking the volume of the shaker. Now over here, the whole drum loop was running through a compressor, and the kick, actually part of the programming of this, was ducking the level too. So let's have a listen again. Real energetic, raucous vibe that's coming through from that process. And let's take the compressor off here and the compressor off here to see how it sounded before, which actually sounds pretty good as well. Depends what kind of vibe you're going for. Let's come back on here. For me, the level of the shaker is just a touch too loud, so I'm going to bring it down. That's working nicely. But what I'd recommend, actually, if you're going to go any further with this kind of idea, is to have a contrast. All of this stuff's got this real saturated, raucous kind of vibe. I think it would probably be good to layer some real defined and clean, crisp sounds on top.